in the Scranton area. That's an area that we love, I will tell you that. Our framers will unlock the American dream for millions of our fellow citizens by eliminating tax breaks and special interest loopholes that primarily benefit the wealthy. Our framework ensures that the benefits of tax reform go to the middle class, not to the highest earners. It's a middle-class bill. That's what we're thinking of. That's what I want. I've had rich friends of mine come up to me and say, Donald, you're doing this tax plan. We don't want anything. We don't. Now, they gain when the economy gains. They gain when companies get better. They gain in lots of different ways. But they don't want that. So many people have come up to me and say, give it to the middle class. Give it to people that need it. Give it to people that want to spend it. You would be surprised. Bob Kraft, he owns the New England Patriots. Good guy. Does very well. Good guy. He does a great job. He was at the White House recently. He gave me a Super Bowl ring. I was very honored. I was very honored. And as he's leaving the White House, he said, Donald, I know you're very soon going to be doing tax reform and tax cuts. Give it to the middle class. Don't give it to us. Give it to the middle class. And that's what we're trying so hard to do. And you will see how good this is. So important. It is so important. The second plank of our tax framework is to make the tax code more simple, fair, and easy to understand. American families and businesses waste billions of hours and tens of billions of dollars on excruciating paperwork. You see that? I mean, it's all over the place. And you have no idea what you're doing anyway. And compliance every single year. Massive numbers of paper. Under our framework, the vast majority of families will be able to file their taxes on that same single sheet of paper that I'm so proud of talking about. As part of the effort to make our tax system simple and fair, we are going to protect thousands of family businesses by ending the crushing, horrible, and unfair estate tax, sometimes known as the death tax. That's a tax that has destroyed so many businesses and kept those businesses out of your family, your children, your grandchildren. It's very sad. But we are working to end the estate tax, to end the death tax, as it's often called. In the crowd today, we have Calvin Ewell and his son, Steve. Calvin, where's Calvin? Where is Calvin? Oh, good-looking family. The Ewells have been a trucking business and in the trucking business since 1946, a very good year. It's a great year. I love that year. Trucking runs in their blood, and Calvin wants to pass his company along to his children, just as it was passed down to him by his father. We're going to protect small business owners and their families so they can continue to run their companies with dedication and with love. And we will make taxes simple and easy and fair for all Americans. Thank you, Calvin. Calvin, you want to hand that business down, right? But, you know, don't worry about it for about 40 years, I hope, okay? 4-0, long time, right? Let's keep him around. Thank you, Calvin. Third, we will cut taxes on American businesses to restore our competitive edge and to create more jobs and higher wages for American workers. The last major tax reform was passed more than 30 years ago in 1986 with a large bipartisan majority. I mean, it was a bipartisan bill. That would be wonderful. But sadly, the Democrats have become obstructionists. They want to stop. They don't want to do anything productive. They want to raise your taxes very, very substantially. I mean, I won't even talk about open borders and higher taxes. That's not a good combination to get elected, believe me. But it's open borders and high taxes, but they are good at obstruction. The 1986 tax bill substantially reduced our corporate tax rates to make America globally competitive. The plan worked, and jobs and industry boomed. Other countries saw our success, however, and they copied our playbook. Our foreign competitors adopted tax rates much lower than ours and much more competitive, and all of a sudden, they started taking our businesses away from us. In fact, when it comes to the business tax, we are now dead last among developed nations. Our rate is the least competitive rate. We have the highest tax rate anywhere in the world. How foolish is this? Our business tax rate is 60% higher than our average economic competitor. The current system has placed a massive tax on every product made in America. Remember the expression? Made in the USA, made in America. You don't hear that so much, but you're now starting to hear it again. What do you like better? Made in America or made in the USA? Ready? Made in America. Made in the USA. Seems to be, hi Jeffrey, seems the great Jeffrey Lord. He was on fake news, CNN, for a long time. He was one of my few sources of truth. Thank you, Jeffrey, for being here. That's a great honor. Thank you. Good man. But giving so many countries a tremendous advantage over us. If you look at China at 15% and Mexico, all of these countries had a lower tax rate than the United States. You can't compete that way. It is time to end this unfair disadvantage and to give American companies and workers the level playing field they so richly deserve, finally. Because when American truckers, and I mean these great, great people, these are great heroes, they have a level, if they have the level playing field, there's nobody on earth with trucks or any other way that can beat you folks. There's nobody. I know what you go through. There is nobody that can beat you. Nobody. But you finally have a government, and frankly, you finally have somebody that's given up a lot. My other life was very good, I have to be. I had a very good life. Nah. I had a very good life. But you know what? I'm having a better life now, and I'm helping a lot of people. And that's as far as I'm concerned. And believe me, I love doing this because we're doing so much between the regulations and the taxes and the getting a Supreme Court judge, not just nominated, but getting him onto the Supreme Court, Justice Gorsuch, who is doing a great, great job at the Supreme Court, and appointing so many other great judges throughout the country. It was so important. It was so important, so I appreciate that. But you finally have a government that is going to defend you and stand up for you and your country. America is being respected again. Something happened today where a country that totally disrespected us called with some very, very important news. And one of my generals came in. They said, you know, I have to tell you, a year ago they would have never done that. It was a great sign of respect. You'll probably be hearing about it over the next few days. But this is a country that did not respect us. This is a country that respects us now. The world is starting to respect us again, believe me. Under our new framework, you will dramatically cut the business tax rate so that American companies and workers can win against those foreign competitors who are winning in many cases because they have an unfair advantage. We will cut the corporate tax rate from 35% and more all the way down to no more than 20%, below the average of our major competitors from other countries. The biggest winners from this transformation will be everyday families from all backgrounds, from all walks of life, and our great companies, which will produce the jobs. They are going to produce jobs like you've never seen before. When companies leave our shores, it's the American workers who get hurt. And when companies stay in America and move to America, it's our wonderful workers who reap the rewards, including our great truckers who will have more products to deliver and more contracts to fill. That's the way it happens. For the many American truckers who file taxes as sole proprietors, S corporations or partnerships, we will cap your top tax rate at a maximum of 25%, substantially lower than what you're paying now. The more than 30 million Americans who have small businesses will see, listen to this, a 40% cut in their marginal tax rate, 40%. I wouldn't want to be a politician against that. They're going to have a long, hard winter. This will be the lowest top marginal income tax rate for small and mid-sized businesses in more than 80 years. Not since 1931 have they had taxes anywhere near that level, right? This huge tax cut two words, huge, and now rocket. Can you believe it? I have them in the same rocket. You know what we're talking about, folks. Don't worry about it. It will rocket fuel, and it will be rocket fuel for our economy. With us today is Kevin Birch of Jet Express, who has been in the trucking business for more than 40 years. Where is he? Kevin. 40 years. You don't look that old, Kevin. Good job. Kevin says that if Congress passes our tax relief and reform plan, he will be able to invest in new equipment and additional training for his dock workers, drivers, and technicians. He wants to create more American jobs, and we are working to help him do exactly that. Plus, we're working on a tax write-off that will be almost immediate with your investment. That's something that you've never seen before. And that's part of our plan because companies, in order to compete over the next 5-year period, allows our framework, and within our framework, that you write off 100% of the cost of new equipment in the year you buy it. When have you heard that one? That's going to be a big one. That's going to be big. I've had calls from great business people. They said, Mr. President, did you really say that? I said, yes, I did. And I might say, they do call me now, Mr. President. It's very interesting. I've had friends for years. They know me. Hey, Don, how you doing? How's it going? Blah, blah, blah. Now they see me. They're all uptight. Mr. President, how is that? It's weird. I said, will you please loosen up? All these are friends for 30 years. And they get a little bit tight. But they are impressed with the one-year immediate write-off. That's what they're impressed by. I think they're very impressed. We want our companies to invest and expand because that means more jobs, more products rolling off the assembly line, and more truckers delivering those products to stores all across our country. Finally, our framework encourages American companies to bring back the trillions and trillions of dollars in wealth parked overseas. Trillions of dollars. Our current tax code actually punishes companies for keeping their headquarters in America. You see that. That's happening. They're being punished. It discourages them from bringing back the profits they earn overseas. In 2016, American multinational companies kept 71% of their foreign earned profits overseas and away from our country. Our framework will totally reverse this, and it's a very, very troubling trend. We'll be bringing back probably very close to 100% of the money back into our country where it can be put to work and jobs will be created. We will totally eliminate the penalty on returning future earnings back to the United States, and we will impose a one-time low tax on money currently parked overseas so it can be brought back home to America where it belongs and where it can do its job. My Council of Economic Advisors estimates that this change, along with a lower tax rate, would likely give the typical American household a $4,000 pay raise. Could be a lot more than that, too. You haven't heard this. So about a $4,000 amount of money additional for the American family to spend. That's very exciting. And you're going to spend that money, it's going to be put to work, and jobs are going to be produced, and we're going to start making our product again. Wouldn't that be nice? It's going to happen. And by the way, not as part of our tax plan, but I am right now renegotiating trade deals that are so horrendous and so one-sided and so embarrassing for our country. You're probably reading the papers, renegotiating NAFTA. We're renegotiating various other deals with foreign countries that are so embarrassing and so horrendous that you would say, why on earth would anybody have signed a deal like that? I'll also be announcing, as you know, my statement and what we'll be doing with respect to the Iran deal, speaking of badly negotiated deals, okay? We're doing that very shortly. So to summarize, our plan goes from 8 tax brackets down to 4, expands the zero tax bracket greatly, expands the child tax credit, repeals the estate tax and special interest tax breaks, cuts the corporate tax rate from much more and equal to 35% tax and brings it all the way down to 20% and cuts tax rates for small businesses to the lowest level in more than 80 years. And our great congressmen, congresswomen, all of the people that we're working with, all I can say is, you better get it passed. They will, I know. And you have great ones here in Pennsylvania. For too long, our tax code has incentivized companies to leave our country in search of lower tax rates. My administration rejects the offshoring model, and we have embraced a brand new model. It's called the American model. We want companies to hire and grow in America, to raise wages for the American workers, and to help rebuild American cities and towns. We're involved in all over the world. It's now time we get involved with rebuilding our country. No one knows America better than America's truckers. Every single day from coast to coast and border to border, where we will have a wall, by the way. In case you had any doubt, does anybody have a doubt? These guys don't have a doubt. In our largest cities and across the rolling plains, you see the incredible beauty of our natural wonders. You see things that few people see. In fact, I think you should take a major wage reduction. You have such a beautiful thing. And we see the enduring strength of the American spirit in those same truckers. What you see is incredible every day. What you see are things that nobody else sees. And I want to tell you, to the truckers in this room, which is a lot of people, you're going to make more money, you're going to do better than ever before, and we truly admire you. You are our heroes, believe me. You are our heroes. Over the decades, you have also seen the disastrous consequences of economic surrender. Our politicians surrendered. They gave up our country. You have driven past the shuttered factories, watched thriving communities become ghost towns, and witnessed America's wealth get shipped away to foreign lands. Now is our chance to reclaim America's destiny. We can breathe new life into struggling industries and forgotten towns. We can end the special deals for special interests, and we will honor the hardworking, patriotic Americans who make this country run. And you can help us stock the store shelves all across the country and around the world with more products stamped with those beautiful words that we're going to say it this way: made in the USA. We will lift our fellow citizens from welfare to work, from dependence to independence, and from poverty to prosperity. American goods will sail across the oceans. American trucks will glide along our highways. So beautiful will those highways be. Smooth, beautiful, no potholes. I know, no potholes. I have many friends in the trucking business, and they tell me it's never been like this. They'll buy beautiful new equipment. By the time it goes from Los Angeles to New York and back, they have a big renovation job in their hands. They said they've never seen it like this before. They will be beautiful again. They will be smooth, beautiful highways again. The American flag. Do we love our American flag? Right? I think people forgot how patriotic we are. I think people forgot how much we love our country. They've learned over the last week, haven't they? But American flags will soar high above the roads. Our cities and our towns will proudly display that flag. Our children will be raised in homes filled with love. Communities filled with airplanes that are going back and forth. That's okay. But communities filled with hope and a nation filled with pride. We will build this future together as one people and one nation under God. With your help and your voice, we will bring back our jobs, we will bring back our wealth, and for every citizen across this land, we will bring back our great American dreams. This is a great and proud state. I am so honored to be with you tonight. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much. Thank you.
President Donald Trump in Middletown, Pennsylvania, at a National Guard hangar there at the airport. Behind him, you can see the 18-wheeler that says Truckers for Tax Reform. Speaking to Pennsylvania workers, a lot of them truckers in that crowd, making the pitch for tax reform, seen as a big pitch for his administration to get across the finish line, and saying that this will be a middle-class tax reform, saying that some $4,000 per American family is expected. Obviously, they've put out a framework of this deal, but the details have yet to be worked out on Capitol Hill as senators and congressmen have been dealing with what the budget is going to look like. As you look at the markets today, we can tell you that the markets are soaring, as the president has pointed to, almost getting to 23,000 today on the Dow, up in the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. And that trend has continued really since Election Day, something that the president has been talking about, saying that the economy will continue to boom and do so in a rocket fuel kind of way, using huge and rocket, two words he said he likes to use nowadays. Let's get some analysis of this pitch. Let's bring in our panel. Charles Hurt, opinion editor for the Washington Times, A.B. Stoddard, associate editor at Real Clear Politics and host of No Labels Radio on SiriusXM, and Tom Rogan, commentary writer for the Washington Examiner. By the way, welcome to Washington. This is Special Report. And Charlie, it was classic President Trump on this pitch, but clearly they're trying to emphasize the middle class part of this pitch.
Yeah, this is by far the most populist presidency that we have had in certainly in modern times. I don't ever remember a president campaigning at or hosting an event with long-haul truck drivers. If there are people that fall in the category of being forgotten men in politics, they would definitely be some of them. I've also never heard a president walk off stage to Creedence Clearwater Susie Q. And all those things. I'm in favor of all those things, by the way. But I think that there are two other things that I think are sort of interesting. One is, clearly, the President Trump wants to own this news cycle. And I think this is what we're going to see going forward as he gears up for re-election. He started a speech at 5:50 in the afternoon. Obviously, he wanted to own that time period, and he wants to go around the media and talk directly to people. Second thing, obviously, he's in Pennsylvania. He's going after Bob Casey, who is up for re-election. He's a Democrat who is in a state that Trump won, and he's clearly trying to send those signals that he aims to fight for his agenda in places like that.
A.B., he turned to the lawmakers in the crowd and talking about tax reform, saying, you better pass it, and then saying they will. Let's just talk about the reality of this. Fox Business Network had an interview with Kevin Brady, the chairman of the House Ways and Means Committee, about the timing. Take a listen to this.
The pivot is when that conference report, the House Senate has agreed on a budget and given us that firm baseline for tax reform. We will go immediately after that, lay out what's called the chairman's mark. But what it means is the Ways and Means Committee comprehensive tax reform plan with all the details. Then we'll begin the markup in the committee and House action.
But the soonest that could happen would be the last week of October, first week of November?
Yeah, so I've learned a long time ago not to plot out the timing and how smoothly these things go, but that would be the perfect timing going forward.
So again, end of October, beginning of November, and just to kind of parse that further, the budget lays down exactly the numbers they can deal with and then tells them what they can negotiate on the specific percentages.
Right, and all of that squabbling is going on behind closed doors right now. You have the president trying, he has previously said it was going to be a middle-class miracle. He's trying to make the pitch that this is going to be a deep middle-class focused tax relief plan. And all of those battles that occur from the rift between the conservative wing of the party and the sort of less deficit-focused wing of the party are going on right now. And as long as you have people like Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky saying, if this provides a hit to the middle class, a tax hike, you're not going to get my vote. That's why these next couple of weeks are so pivotal, because they're really not at the details yet. There are many people that can still make the case that this is going to favor the wealthy, and it's not going to be fair enough and helpful enough to the middle class. And that's all being kept quite quiet, but it's a heated debate right now.
The House Tea Party caucus has moved forward, and they have said, we're going to support this framework. They've moved forward with the budget. The real question is in the Senate and what that all looks like. There are only 30 legislative days left before the end of the year.
And I think you see there, you know, the president today with this address, clearly it's about rejuvenating himself. You see how much fun he has with it, the hinting of rockets, whether that's about Kim Jong-un or something else. But also, I think that knowledge in the White House, they needed legislative victory. They're running out of time. And when you get into the details of things like the state and local tax deduction and whether you can get something through without alienating Republican members in the northeast of the country, you know, there's complexity in a limited window.
There's a Fox News poll, Charlie, that says, how important is it for Congress to pass tax reform this year? And it says extremely 22%, very 30%, somewhat 28%. In other words, people want to see something.
Oh, absolutely. And I think AB is exactly right. The problem we're going to see, much like we saw with healthcare, is going to be between Republicans, more conservative Republicans and more moderate Republicans. But the Republican leadership has to understand that they are facing a situation where, yet again, where if they don't figure out a way to come together and come up with something and work with Donald Trump on this, Donald Trump will walk across the aisle and try to negotiate something with Democrats. And obviously that makes it a lot trickier for a lot of reasons in terms of leadership and getting Congress to do stuff. But Donald Trump is not an ideologue on this stuff. And I think that Republicans make a huge error in not doing everything they can to bring people together and get something done.
Okay, panel, thank you. We'll see you a bit later, a different show since we took this speech at the top. President Trump also making other news today in a meeting with Canada's Prime Minister and a public takedown of another news report. Chief White House correspondent John Roberts joins us from the North Lawn. Good evening, John.
Good evening to you, Brett. And first of all, just a note about what the president was talking about there in Harrisburg when he said that some country that had not been respecting us is now respecting us. Check with officials here at the White House. Something is definitely up. They're not ready to talk about it just yet, but hopefully they will be soon. Now, to the other matter at hand, the president has long complained that he doesn't get a fair shake from many members of the media. Today, he had some high-powered help in pushing back against the latest episode of what the president calls fake news. In the Oval Office with Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau today, President Trump denounced in the strongest terms an NBC News report that he had asked for a tenfold increase in the nation's nuclear arsenal.
No, I never discussed increasing it. I want it in perfect shape. That was just fake news by NBC, which gives a lot of fake news lately. No, I never discussed. The president got some backup from his Secretary of Defense. In a statement, James Mattis saying, quote, recent reports that the president called for an increase in the U.S. nuclear arsenal are absolutely false. This kind of erroneous reporting is irresponsible. Earlier, President Trump suggested there should be consequences for such reporting, tweeting, quote, with all of the fake news coming out of NBC and the networks, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license? Bad for country. It's frankly disgusting the way the press is able to write whatever they want to write, and people should look into it. The president also weighed in on North Korea for the first time since a meeting with his top national security advisors yesterday. President Trump acknowledging that he has a tougher approach toward Pyongyang than some of his advisors. I think I have a little bit different attitude on North Korea than other people might have. And I listen to everybody, but ultimately my attitude is the one that matters, isn't it? That's the way it works. I think perhaps I feel stronger and tougher on that subject than other people, but I listen to everybody, and ultimately I will do what's right for the United States and really what's right for the world, because that's really a world problem.
And the president said he has no issues with his Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson.
I had a lunch last week, and we had a very good lunch. We have a very good relationship. The press really doesn't understand that, but that's okay. We actually have a very good relationship.
In the president's meeting with the Canadian Prime Minister, NAFTA was at the center of the table. President Trump insisting that the friendship between the two leaders is on solid ground, even if the trade agreement isn't.
We're negotiating a NAFTA deal. It's time after all of these years, and we'll see what happens. It's possible we won't be able to make a deal, and it's possible that we will. We have to protect our workers, and in all fairness, the Prime Minister wants to protect Canada and his people also.
As he saw his guests to the door, President Trump put what may be a coda on his spat with the NFL. The president tweeted this morning, "It is about time that Roger Goodell of the NFL is finally demanding that all players stand for our great national anthem. Respect our country." At the West Wing entrance, the president gave the league a thumbs up. Very good catch. And the president made more news today, announcing his new nominee to be the replacement Department of Homeland Security Secretary. After John Kelly left to become his chief of staff, it will be the deputy chief of staff, Kirstjen Nielsen, who was also the chief of staff under Kelly at DHS. This would mark, Brett, the very first time that a person who was a former staff member at the DHS is now becoming the secretary. If confirmed, of course.
Of course. John Roberts, live on the North Lawn. John, thanks. The devastation is only getting worse 3 days after several wildfires ignited in California's wine country. The death toll continues to rise out there, and nearly 4,000 homes and businesses have been destroyed as conditions make the fires grow in number and in danger. Correspondent Claudia Cowan joins us live from Santa Rosa with a look at the ongoing emergency. Good evening, Claudia.
Good evening, Brett. Well, some victims returned home today to find they lost everything. In fact, some homes like this one here still smoldering after 3 days. And as the death toll rises to 21, the size and scope of this disaster are sinking in.
They had so many fires, you can't really keep.
The devastation and death toll growing in some of the most destructive and deadliest wildfires in California's history. A bird's eye view of parts of Sonoma County shows entire neighborhoods are completely gone.
This is just pure devastation, and it's going to take us a while to get out and get through and comb through all of this.
Jennifer Broncima and her husband David sorted through the remnants of their home in the hard-hit Coffey Park section of Santa Rosa. While some of their neighbors' homes were spared, theirs was not.
People were going every direction. Trees were down. It was just covered. It was apocalyptic. It was insane. Lived here 13 years. We don't know what the next move is yet.
Among those lost in the fires, 100-year-old Charles P. Trippi and his 98-year-old wife, Sarah. The grade school sweethearts recently celebrated their 75th wedding anniversary. Their family took comfort in the fact that they were together until the end.
Those of us in the family always would, wonder what would happen if one of them died and the other one was still left. And so they went together.
So far this year, 8 million acres have been charred in the West, and that number will grow with new red flag warnings in parts of Northern California. A sharp northern wind known as a Diablo is expected to gust up to 40 miles an hour.
We are expecting some extreme fire behavior and growth of our incidents currently, and that is going to lead us to challenges.
Also facing challenges, California's $58 billion wine industry. Hard-hit Napa and Sonoma are home to 85% of U.S. wines. While the extent of the damage is still unknown, winemakers say they're doing the best they can.
We just kept on doing winemaking the old-style way without, as much as technology and electricity, of course, as we used to.
These fires have now scorched more than 170,000 acres, and as the firefight continues, so does the search for a cause. Officials say it probably was not lightning. They say people start most fires, either intentionally or not. Brett.
Claudia Cowan, live in Santa Rosa. Claudia, thank you. After 6 weeks of trial and 35 witnesses, the prosecution rested today in the bribery trial of New Jersey Democratic Senator Bob Menendez. Following the conclusion of the prosecution's case, defense attorneys made a motion for acquittal, citing the 2016 Supreme Court decision that overturned the bribery conviction of Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell. The judge has yet to decide on that. Court resumes Monday. What's in a name? The Boy Scouts open their doors to girls. Why? Next. The figurative "No Girls Allowed" sign is coming down as the Boy Scouts announce plans to let girls into some of its programs. It's an historic move for a club that's made some significant changes in recent years. Chief Washington correspondent James Rosen joins us now with what those changes are and how some, including the Girl Scouts, are reacting tonight. Good evening, James.
Brett, good evening. The move to allow girls to sign up for Cub Scouts came via a unanimous decision of the Boy Scouts Board of Directors and will take effect next year. Each Scout pack will have the option to remain all boy or establish a separate den for girls, with all dens remaining single gender. As well, the Texas-based organization announced older girls will be able to earn the highest rank of Eagle Scout. We believe it is critical to evolve how our programs meet the needs of families interested in positive and lifelong experiences for their children. Chief Scout Executive Michael Serbaugh said in a statement, adding, "We strive to bring what our organization does best, developing character and leadership for young people, to as many families and youth as possible." Early skeptics of the announcement included Donald Trump Jr., who tweeted, quote, "Strange, I thought that's what the Girl Scouts was for."
I think the Girl Scouts are right to be worried about this. They're saying, hey, wait a second, we have our organization, we have our traditions. The Boy Scouts look at this as families wanting to drop off their sons and daughters at the same time and have it all.
Maybe this is a good thing for the Girl Scouts, meaning maybe it's a good thing for girls. If they can find programs that they're happy with and they feel they can participate in, who cares what the banner is? Who cares about what the name of the organization is? It's about, bringing young kids together and giving them important life skills.
The head of the Girl Scouts, Kathy Hopinka Hannon, caught wind of this planned move this summer and wrote to the Boy Scouts national president, Randall Stevenson, in a letter first obtained by BuzzFeed, quote, "Rather than seeking to fundamentally transform Boy Scouts of America into a co-ed program, we believe strongly that Boy Scouts should instead take steps to ensure that they are expanding the scope of their programming to all boys, including those who BSA has historically underserved, such as African American and Latino boys." Today's announcement comes 4.5 years after the Boy Scouts changed their rules to admit openly gay scouts, and 2 years after gay Scout Masters were accepted. Brett.
James, thank you. Defense Secretary Jim Mattis demanded action from Congress during a speech Monday to repeal budget caps on defense spending, saying, quote, "There's a real need for more funding for U.S. forces to keep an edge over adversaries." But on Capitol Hill, there's a big debate on big numbers for the military. I asked Acting Army Secretary Ryan McCarthy about the fight over defense spending today.
We have to take a hard look at how do we get the next generation capability into our formations so that our sons and daughters aren't fighting with equipment from the last war for the next war. My job is to prepare the U.S. Army, organize them, train them, and equip them for combat. And I have to ask for the funds required to support those mission sets. Now, global demand is very vast. We have 180,000 people deployed in 140 countries worldwide.
180,000 in 140 countries. Congress is expected to take up defense spending before the new year. The U.S. Navy has relieved 2 top officers of the USS John McCain of duty following an August collision near Singapore. Commander Alfredo Sanchez and Commander Jesse Sanchez have both been reassigned. The cause of that collision with an oil tanker that killed 10 U.S. sailors and injured 5 more is still under investigation, but the Navy has described it as preventable. Next up, the implications of not recertifying the Iran nuclear deal.
We're renegotiating various other deals with foreign countries that are so embarrassing and so horrendous that you would say, why on earth would anybody have signed a deal like that? I'll also be announcing, as you know, my statement and what we'll be doing with respect to the Iran deal, speaking of badly negotiated deals.
President Trump in Pennsylvania teasing what we expect to be a speech possibly Friday on the Iran decision. He will tell Sean Hannity in an interview aired 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight that it was one of the most incompetently drawn deals I've ever seen. We got nothing. And he goes into that extensively. There is a new poll out recently, our most recent poll about Iran, in which people are asked, President Trump on Iran, too tough, not tough enough? and about right. And the Goldilocks answer there in the porridge, 44% about right on this poll. We're back with the panel. Tom, what about, first of all, for people who aren't following it, this is not getting out of the deal completely. Correct. And I think that's where people glaze over and they say, wait a second, we're getting out of this thing?
That's
so
correct.
Just in simple terms for folks at home.
Yes, so basically, if the president decides to decertify the deal, which he is required to do by Congress, not the deal itself, by Congress, it produces a situation in which Congress can then, over 60 days, decide whether to introduce sanctions on an expedited legislative path. So it really, the functional element is to sort of throw a curveball at the deal, at the Iranians, a warning shot, if you will. I think the operative question is whether, when you think about the key element of the Europeans, especially the French and Germans, having major contracts in Iran, but President Macron of France having a close relationship with President Trump, whether if he decertifies now President Trump, that actually helps move the ball with Macron or pushes it back. And I think there are some real doubts about that, but we shall see tomorrow.
Frankly, AB, this is about a president who does not want to go through this process of recertifying every 90 days. Right. Recertifying a plan, a deal that he thinks is the most incompetently drawn thing he's ever seen.
Right. So it's about breaking a campaign promise every 90 days, and he doesn't like it. So to decertify, which is what we expect him to do, it'll be a symbolic moment, but it creates this challenging process. First of all, Congress can't do anything in 60 days. We all know that. Our allies have told us they are doing deals with Iran, and they do not want to reimpose sanctions. We'll be on our own. The Congress can do nothing, in which case we remain in the deal, and really nothing has really happened. But our adversaries will definitely take the opportunity, the Russians, the Chinese, of course the North Koreans, to say this is a sign that the Americans are always lying and they don't stay in the deal, because they are living up to the actual terms of the deal. Are they to the letter? Is the spirit of the deal something that President Trump has a problem with? Of course, but his own Secretary of Defense has said they are sticking, they're compliant. So it's in the eye of the beholder. Do they sponsor terrorism around the Middle East? Do they do all these bad things? Yes. But if they are actually sticking with the terms of this deal, and we try to jerk around with that, it's going to create more problems at a time when we're in this standoff with North Korea.
Okay, there was a hearing today up on Capitol Hill. Jake Sullivan, who worked for Hillary Clinton and knew a lot about the Iran deal in its infancy, was testifying. And a lot of questions about where the uranium in Iran is going.
You said earlier that 98% of Iran's enriched uranium was shipped out of the country, correct?
I did.
Where's the uranium?
The uranium is in Russia.
How do you know that?
Because there's a supply and accountancy procedure to ensure where the uranium is collected in Iran, moved, and then stored.
You know where the uranium is? That's news. That's newsworthy, because nobody else does. And ironically, if we credit the uranium with being in Russia, it would be an interesting departure from the individuals who don't trust Russia on anything except apparently where the Iranian fissile material might be. And I guess that's convenient.
So you get the sense up on Capitol Hill, there's a lot of people who don't like the deal either.
Oh, yeah, and they didn't like the deal originally, and of course, this deal was struck over the explicit objection of Congress, and how this wasn't viewed as a treaty to begin with is a whole other can of worms about the utter, absolute, total disregard for constitutionality, if you ask me, by the previous president. Yesterday, over the weekend sometime, the president of Iran gave a speech in Tehran saying that 10 Donald Trumps couldn't roll back the benefits that Iran has already enjoyed with this deal. And he's exactly right. All of the benefits were front-loaded on the front end, and Iran has enjoyed all of the cash, the unfrozen assets, the lifting of sanctions. They've enjoyed all of that, and now we have no teeth left to do this. And it just underscores that Donald Trump is right about this. This is like the worst deal in human history.
Well, it was structured a little bit like Obamacare, where the front side is the good side, and then you have to deal with whatever comes afterwards. I want to touch on very quickly, I have no time. NBC had a story. Trump wanted tenfold increase increase in nuclear arsenal surprising military. This set off the president tweeting a fake NBC News made-up story that I wanted tenfold increase in U.S. nuclear arsenal. Pure fiction made to demean NBC equals CNN. He went on to say, with all the fake news coming out of NBC networks, at what point is it appropriate to challenge their license? Bad for the country. That sent people flying. And then the defense secretary released a statement. Recent reports that the president called for an increase in the U.S. nuclear arsenal are absolutely false. This kind of erroneous reporting is irresponsible. Tom, I was going to come to you for comment, but I have zero time.
No problem.
But I do have a tease. The online show is coming up right after this show, and we'll deal with that question first. When we come back, one man really sticks a neck out there during a wedding proposal. Finally, tonight, a Missouri man had the help of an extra tall friend when he proposed to his girlfriend. Cody Hall recently took Michaela Blakey on a special tour of the giraffe enclosures at the Dickerson Park Zoo in Springfield. As they were getting behind-the-scenes look at the animals, Blakey noticed a ring hanging from the lanyard around Millie the giraffe's neck. That's when Hall got down on one knee to pop the question. She said yes. The couple say they plan to tie the knot next March. The zoo says Millie should be the honorary ring bearer. Might be a challenge logistically, but congratulations. Thanks for inviting us into your home tonight. That's it for this special report. Fair, balanced, and unafraid. The story with Martha is now, so Special Report Online.